Hello friends, in this video you are going to study what is compound interest, compounded monthly, compounded quarterly and compounded half yearly. In the previous video we have seen how to calculate compound interest, compounded yearly and amount in compound interest. You can see this video on my YouTube channel. So let us start. So firstly, what is compound interest? So the meaning of compound interest is when interest is added to the principal at the end of each period and the total so obtained is treated as a principal for the next period. Then the interest so obtained is called as compound interest. If we consider compound interest compounded half yearly, it means the interest is charged for the first half month, it means for the 6 months, and then it is added to the principal and then the interest is charged for the next half year for the entire amount. So this interest is called as compound interest. Then how it is calculated? So how to calculate compound interest? If the principal is P, the rate of interest R and the number of periods N. So here the rate of interest and number of periods are different according to the compounded half yearly, compounded monthly, compounded quarterly. So then the amount A is equal to at the end of the particular period. So amount is equal to, so we can use this formula to calculate directly amount. P into bracket 1 plus R upon 100 bracket raised to N. By using this formula we can calculate the amount. So here in compound interest compounded half yearly, quarterly and monthly, formula will be the same, but the value of rate of interest, it means R, and number of periods are the different according to the compounded interest. Then the compound interest is given by, again the same formula we can use to calculate the compound interest. So compound interest is equal to A minus P, it means amount minus principal. So what is the formula for amount? So we have seen this, so we can use this formula. So it can be written as compound interest is equal to P into bracket 1 plus R upon 100 bracket raised to N minus 1. By using this formula we can calculate directly compound interest. So in compound interest compounded half yearly, quarterly and monthly, we can use the same formula for compound interest and amount to calculate amount and compound interest. Now so compound interest when period is different from a year. So the compound interest compounded yearly, when it is given yearly, so we can use the formula same as the previous, but when the interest is charged compounded half yearly, quarterly and monthly, so we can use this calculation. So when compound interest compounded yearly, so we can use N is equal to N, it means number of years, and the rate of interest is rate of interest percentage per annum. But when the compound interest compounded half yearly, then we have to use N is equal to, what we have to take, which value of N we have to take? So number of years multiplied by 2. If the compound interest compounded half yearly for 2 years, so N multiplied by 2, it means N is equal to 2. So 2 multiplied by 2, it will be 4. Then the rate of interest. So here the rate of interest is rate of interest percentage per period. So rate of interest we have to calculate per period. It means in the half yearly compounded interest, so rate of interest is percentage per half year. It means we have to divide by 2. So rate of interest divided by 2. So suppose the rate of interest is 10%. So 10 divided by 2. It means 5% per half year we have to take here. It means the value of R will be the different and the value of N will be the different for compound interest compounded half yearly. Now quarterly. Suppose compound interest compounded quarterly. So what is the value of N? So value of N, it means number of periods we have to take here. So N multiplied by 4, it means number of years multiplied by 4. Suppose the number of years are 2, so 2 multiplied by 4. So 4 into 2, 8. So we have to take 8. It means when we calculate the compound interest for quarterly compounded, so we have to take here the number of periods 8. It means every 3 months the compound interest will be charged and it is added to the principal. Then rate of interest. So the rate of interest is given for a year is 10%. Then we have to take the rate of interest for per quarter. So R divided by 4. It means for 1 year rate of interest is 10%. So 10 divided by 4. So we have to take this value of R and we can calculate amount in compound interest and compound interest directly. Again the same for the compound interest compounded monthly. So the value of N will be the number of years multiplied by 12. So in a 1 year the interest is charged for every year and which is added every month and which is added to the principal. It means for a period of 2 years the value of N is 2 multiplied by 12. It means 24 months. So we have to take the value of N here 24. And the rate of interest is, suppose the rate of interest is 10% per annum. So we have to take here R divided by 12. It means 10 divided by 12. So by using this we can calculate the amount and compound interest. So I will give you a small exercise. For 5 years at 14% per annum, we have to calculate the compound interest compounded yearly, half yearly, quarterly and monthly. Then what are the number of periods and rate of interest per period? So for yearly, what will be the number of periods? And what is the rate of interest? You can comment in the chat box. So for 5 years at 14% per annum, what is the value of N and R for compound interest compounded yearly? Now for half yearly, what is the value of N and what is the value of R? Comment your answer in the chat box. Now compound interest compounded quarterly, then what is the value of N for 5 years and what is the rate of interest for 14% per annum? And lastly, compound interest compounded monthly for 5 years, what is the value of N and at 14% per annum, what is the value of R for compound interest compounded monthly? So I will give you a small chart here. So this will show when the period is 5 years and the rate of interest is 14% per annum, for compounded yearly the value of N will be the 5 and the rate of interest is 14% per annum. But when we calculate the compound interest compounded half yearly, so we have to take the value of N is equal to 10 and the rate of interest is 7% because 14 divided by 2. For compound interest compounded quarterly, the value of N will be 5 multiplied by 4, so it will be 20 and the rate of interest, so 14 divided by 4, so it will be 3.5. So we have to take this value and calculate the compound interest and amount in compound interest, compounded quarterly. When it is compounded monthly, the value of n is equal to 60 for 5 years and the rate of interest is 1.1667 for 14% per annum. By using this value, we can calculate the compound interest. Now, we will solve one example on compound interest compounded half yearly. So, we can take a very simple example. Compound interest compounded half yearly. It means here we have to calculate the compound interest for compounded period is half year. So, the example is find the compound interest on rupees 5,000 at 4% per annum for 5 years. Compounded half yearly. Sometimes it is given in the example, sometimes it is given in the bracket. If it is not given, so then we have to consider this example for compound interest compounded yearly. But here what is given? Compounded half yearly. It means here we have to calculate the compound interest compounded half yearly. Now in this example, what is given? So write down the given that firstly. So P is the principal, rupees 5,000. Then number of periods, N. So number of years are given 5 years. When it is compounded half yearly, so 5 multiplied by 2. So the number of periods will be 10. It means 10 half years. So we have to take the value of N is here 10. Next, the rate of interest is 4% per annum. For half yearly, it will be 4 divided by 2. It means the rate of interest we have to take here 2% per half year. And what we have to calculate? So here we have to calculate compound interest. Then the solution will be, so firstly, what is the formula for compound interest? Compound interest is equal to P into bracket 1 plus R upon 100 bracket raised to N minus 1. Please use this formula to calculate the directly compound interest. Put these values in this formula. So the compound interest is equal to 5,000 multiplied by 1 plus 2 divided by 100 bracket raised to N. So here N is 10 minus 1. So calculate, firstly solve this bracket and then other calculations. So 5,000 into bracket, solve this bracket, this will be 1.02 bracket raised to 10 minus 1. Now calculate on the scientific calculator 1.02 bracket raised to 10. So it will be 1.2190 minus 1. So 5,000 multiplied by 0.2190. So multiply it on calculator, then we will get the answer 1095. So compound interest is rupees 1095. In this way we can calculate the compound interest compounded half yearly. Now the same example we can take for the compound interest compounded quarterly and compare the answers. It means we have to compare the compound interest. When the period compound interest period is decreased, then the interest will be increased. So we will check in the next example. So the example on compound interest compounded quarterly. So we are taking the same example because we have to compare the interest. So find the compound interest on rupees 5,000 at 4% per annum for 5 years. And the compound interest we have to calculate for the compounded quarterly period. Again the same principle is given rupees 5,000. Now here we have to calculate the number of periods. So N is given. So number of years 5 years. Now for compounded quarterly, it will be number of years multiplied by 4. So 5 multiplied by 4. So the value of n, number of periods, n is equal to 20. Now the rate of interest. So in this example, rate of interest is given 4% per annum, but the value of r we have to take here 4 divided by 4. It means the value of r will be 1% per period. So here the rate of interest is, it means r is 1% per quarter. And what we have to calculate here? Compound interest. Now the solution of this example. Again the same formula for compound interest. Compound interest is equal to P into bracket 1 plus r upon 100 bracket raised to n minus 1. Now put these values in the formula. So compound interest is equal to 5000 multiplied by 1 plus 1 upon 100 bracket raised to 20 minus 1. So here the value of r and value of n will be the different, but the formula is same. So firstly solve the bracket. So 1 plus 1 upon 100 is equal to 1.01. So this will be 1.01 bracket raised to 20. Now calculate it on calculator. 1.01 bracket raised to 20. So it will be 1.2202 and minus 1 from it. So it will be 5000 multiplied by 0.2202. So it will be 1101. It means compound interest is rupees 1101. So it will be increased. If we compare the compound interest compounded half yearly and compounded quarterly, so in compounded quarterly, compound interest will be increased. Same way, this example we will calculate for the compound interest compounded monthly. Again the same example, but the period of compound interest is different, which is compounded monthly. If it is compounded monthly, then what is given here? So the principal is given, but the number of periods. So the period is given 5 years. For compounded monthly, it will be 5 multiplied by 12. So it will be 60. So number of periods. So n is equal to 60. We have to take n is equal to 60. And the rate of interest is 4% per annum. But for compounded monthly, it will be 4 divided by 12. So it will be r is equal to 0.333. Take it up to 4 digit. So it will be very easy to calculate the final answer, and which will be correct. Now we have to calculate here compound interest. Use the formula for compound interest. Compound interest is equal to P into bracket 1 plus r upon 100 bracket raised to n minus 1. So put these values in the formula and solve this. So firstly solve this bracket. So it will be 1.00333 bracket raised to 60 minus 1. So is equal to 1.2210 minus 1. So it will be 5000 multiplied by 0.2210. So this will be 1105. So compound interest is rupees 1105. So this will be increased slightly. So this will be more than the compounded half yearly, compounded quarterly. So in this way, when the compounded period is reduced, then the compound interest will be increased. Now there are some example to solve and to practice. So the example 1, so you can take a notebook or pen and paper to solve this example and comment your answer in the chat box. I will give you some time, or you will pause this video for a minute and calculate the answer and comment in the chat box. So the first example, what will be the interest on rupees 10,000 for 3 years at 12% per annum, how much amount will the borrower repay in all compounded half yearly? It means here the compound interest is charged compounded half yearly. So you have to calculate here what is N and what is R, and then use the formula for amount, and then you will add the principal to the firstly calculate the compound interest on it, compounded half yearly, then add to the principal, then you will get the amount. So calculate it, pause this video for a minute, calculate your answer and comment in the chat box. Now the second example for practice. Calculate compound interest on rupees 5,000 for 2 years at 8% per annum compounded quarterly. So this example is given for compound interest compounded quarterly. It means you have to firstly decide what is N, then what is R, and then solve this example. So pause this video for a minute, comment your answer in the chat box. Now the third example. Find the amount on rupees 5,000 for 3 years at 8% per annum compounded monthly. So in this example, what is asked? So here you have to find out the amount. So you can use the formula for amount directly, then calculate N and R, solve this example and comment your answer in the chat box. Hello friends, for more videos on business mathematics and statistics, subscribe this channel and also press on the bell icon for notifications.